Alright gang, so we are diving into this 3.6 liter Pinstar Chrysler Jeep engine, which is not just in Jeeps, it's in a lot of these Chrysler products, Dodge, whatever you may have it, you want to call it. Yeah, just mostly the Mopar V6 engine. So guys, in order to perform this repair, you're going to want to get you a kit like this. The OMT timing tool. I got this one off Amazon for about I got this for $25 guys off Amazon. So you can kind of get a half tool, cheap tool. It ain't the best quality, as you can see. It's kind of like, it's just mostly plastic, not even really like sturdy plastic, but it will essentially get the job done. And as you can see, I've got this part number right here on the one you need for bank one passenger side, bank 2 driver side. So we're focusing on this side because this is where the damage has been done on our camshaft lobe here, guys. So you want to tune into the link in the video below to kind of understand what symptoms that led me to think or even get this far into this here engine and upon replacing this camshaft. So as you can see, we're missing our lifter roller, guys. It's totally not there. If you look on this one, it's there. That's what it should look like. How this lobe here, on this one here, you see this lifter roller here, that's missing on this cylinder. So we're gonna have to remove that lifter right there. That's, you can see protruding out the head, this little thing here. So we got to remove that because it's kind of stuck, and I believe that is the actual source of the issue, that lifter getting stuck like that, and then furthermore causing damage to the roller bearing here, the rocker, the rocker. Yeah, there's so many names for this thing, y'all. I get them all kind of mixed and construed, so that's why I'm trying to show you exactly what I'm talking about. But essentially, yes, so we have to replace the camshaft now because it is scarred pretty bad, and we just don't want to leave it like that to cause more issues, especially when we're experiencing performance thing where this thing is actually shutting off in the middle of driving. So like I said, you're going to want to get yourself this timing kit, focusing on bank 1, guys. This is the part number you need. It just sort of slides right in here. There's a bolt that rides along this here guide that you can see. You want to find it, fish it in, and what it's going to do is push this here timing chain guide, the little black piece sticking up out the engine. It's going to push it in so that you can get some play on this here chain. That way we can start loosening these cam adjusters and then furthermore free our camshaft. So that is the plan. And you want to make sure you have this thing set on top dead center. Definitely want to research the literature if you can. I'll explain it the best way I know how to set this thing, which you want to start with your crankshaft, that big bolt right there. You want to turn it until you can get these camshafts to be positioned properly. So either you want these arrows to be facing how they are now, outwards directly away from each other. You see this line, they're almost lined up. This needs to be lined up with these arrows pointing opposite or either facing each other. I point them to the opposite direction because if you look here, it's easier to understand where your timing marks are as far as lining up the cam adjuster with the actual camshaft, because as you can see here, I'm not sure if this is from factory, but it all lines up here. So if it's not sure if someone's been in this motor or not, or if this came from the factory like this, but there's essentially, you want to kind of line all this up before you start taking it apart. There's a dot here on the cam adjuster. There's a dot here on the camshaft itself. And then we have a dot here, right here on this bridge journal for the actual camshaft. So all that is kind of marked so that we can get our alignment correct. It's on this camshaft and then also on this one, which is, this is the exhaust. This one is the intake. So we're focusing really on replacing this intake camshaft is what we're going to do. I'm not going to mess with the exhaust cam at all. I'm just going to leave it for the most part alone. May just have to move it around to manipulate to get my tools to work and to get everything to line up. But that's about all we're going to do with on that camshaft. So Get all your things marked if you have to. If it's not marked here on this journal, you want to make sure you mark it so that it'll furthermore make your process easier upon putting this thing back together, because you do not want to jump timing and, you know, bend one of these valve springs or these valves, the valves in the head. You don't want that to happen. So that's what we're doing on getting this alignment all in unison. So in order to not have to take down this whole timing cover, definitely want to get yourself this toolkit. Like I said, 25 bucks on Amazon, you can't beat it. So we're going to go ahead and snake this thing down in here, ride it along that boat. The boat is, let's zoom in on the boat. If I can get that boat, can I see it on the camera? Let's get it. A view in there, right there, guys. So there's the boat. I'm going to show you and guide it. You see where it's going? That boat gets guided and it's going to snake it right behind the camshaft in there like that. And then furthermore, reach over here to this here tensioner. All right. So now that we've got that set up and in position, right, it needs to go in further. It's kind of like floating here on top real loose like. So we're gonna have to manipulate the camshaft itself. Get you a wrench of this sort. I got a 1 1/8. It fits a little loosely here, but it's enough to kind of get me going. This is the closest thing that I have to get this thing to work. I'm not sure exactly what size this camshaft is, but you could probably even use a crescent wrench, an adjustable wrench, to get this done. Okay, so check it out. We got it in position, right? Now I'm just gonna kind of manipulate this thing until it bottoms out. Just watch how it kind of slowly falls in place as I rock the cam. Oop, I see this slid right in there. You want the bottom at the bottom of that there, you know, the little access on the back side, bottom it out. And until you see, look, we've got play. Now we got play on the chain. So then that's how you know the tensioner has been deactivated. See how we got that play? That's what we want. So now we can essentially got enough slack to remove this here cam adjuster. So to furthermore allow us to ensure that we don't skip timing, we got this nifty little tool that comes in our kit, and it is labeled left and right to go on each side so you don't get it twisted. So essentially you just kind of slide it in place and just kind of manipulate it even further to get this thing to go in the best you can. All right, you may even have to play with the exhaust cam a little bit and vice versa until bam, it slides in. Now you're locked in place, so that's less you have to worry about as far as it jumping timing. Just kind of keep your eye on everything. Try to get as much slack as you can so you can kind of move this around when necessary. So yeah, guys, that's essentially all that there is to it. So now that we got everything locked in place, we're gonna go ahead and start working on loosening up these cam adjusters, and then furthermore removing this camshaft. All right, so we're about to take this here cam adjuster, loosen it up. Hopefully I only got to do one side. Not really sure how much play we're going to get, but I'm just going to start with this one. I've got a 35mm socket. It fits on there quite snug, so there you have it. And we're going to loosen this thing up like such. All right. It's on there pretty tight. Stay tuned for the torque specs. All right, so now that we got that loosened up, let's go ahead and remove this thing. All right. That should get her Now that we have it loose, let's just wiggle it off. And it looks like that's gonna be just enough play that we need. So essentially we won't have to mess with this side or mess with anything else. Now we're gonna start taking off these here camshaft bolts for the camshaft journals. It is a T30 Torx bits. Fits right in there. As you can see. So we're gonna start removing these here. All right, y'all, so let's dive into this repair. We got our T30 Torx. All right, so essentially, y'all, we are about to start busting these things out. I'm going to start on the outside and work my way in, just slowly loosening up these here bolts, and they're pretty tight. So just to be mindful, make sure you get this socket all the way in before you start twisting on it. So you don't strip the heads on them. Essentially, you want to replace these bolts as well. These are one-time use only. So I'm starting on the outside and working my way in. Right now I'm just focusing on loosening it. And the other thing, y'all, before you start lifting up this camshaft, make sure the camshaft itself is in a neutral position. Make sure none of the valve springs have tension. None of the lobes are standing up on the actual rocker roller. When I mean rocker roller, this thing here, this is the one that we found in the engine, just resting there, worn, slap out. You can see this thing is wobbly as can be. So you don't want these to have tension on them. So each, you see the tip of them, make sure they're all in a relaxed position and not putting tension on your valve springs, so that you don't have tension pushing up against this here camshaft, furthermore making it harder to release it and possibly snapping or breaking it, which essentially we're not going to reuse this camshaft, so it wouldn't matter, but we just don't want to damage the actual camshaft journals or anything like that, or scar it or anything. So safest practice is just to make sure they're in a neutral position. All you gotta do is just rotate this thing, get this camshaft back and forth with your wrench until it's relaxed. You don't want that thing standing up, or you're gonna be fighting against the tension of the valve springs, and you know, you just don't want that. So that's what I'm doing, and we're just slowly working our way from this side to this side to this one to this one, and then we can furthermore lift it on up out of there. So just be mindful, get your bit all the way in, put some pressure on the back of it so you don't snap it. The longer the ratchet, the easier to break the bolts as far as loosening them. Don't mean literally breaking, but just to get them free. Get a short ratchet, it's going to make it harder, which is why this one is a little tough, because it's still a 1/4 inch drive. If you can get like a 3/8, it'd be perfect. But this is the one that I have for this socket. I could probably put an adapter and then use a 3/8 drive, which, you know what, that's what I want to do for the rest of the way, just to kind of demonstrate how much easier this process will be with a longer, more sturdier ratchet. Check it out. I got an adapter, got a 3/8 ratchet. Let's see how much easier it's going to be, y'all. See, look at that. It's way easier breaking these bolts. Yep, that's what you want to do. We're going to break all of them. Still pretty tight, but, you know. Essentially going to get the job done. So now that we got them all broken, I'm going to speed up the process and use a power tool, get these things all the way off. And then you want to make sure you keep your journals all in order, neat, in the same position, because ideally that's exactly how you want to put these things back on here. So one by one, I'm gonna take them off and then carefully position them somewhere where I can keep them in order. They are also marked, so I mean, if you do so happen to get them mixed up, you can always identify where to go by looking at the markings, which I'll show you once we get them out on this here bridge of the journals. But it just makes it easier and quicker just to keep them neat and aligned. So let me go ahead and buzz these out and then get this camshaft out, and then I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. All right, so as you can see, we've got that camshaft out of there, and you can get a clear visual on your rocker rollers. And as you can see, that one's clearly missing, and you can even see even better how this here valve spring keeper is kind of protruding out of there. So we're going to get creative and figure out a way to put it back in position. We're going to probably have to suppress the spring and then keep that valve up and let that keeper fall into place somehow. So we got to kind of MacGyver. And this is how we're keeping up with our camshaft journals. So this is the biggest one, is the number 1, and as you can see, is labeled 1I for intake. If it was a exhaust cam, it'd be 1E. And as you can see, this is number 2. Look closely, 2I. This one should be 3I, 3I, and then 4I. All right, so we got them in order, how we took it off. So keep that in mind. You want to keep the same direction and everything. So this is facing towards closer to the oil cooler. It's the orientation. Here's our camshaft. Take a nice inspection of the gouging that was done, which is why we're replacing it. And better yet, I'm going to get the new camshaft and do a side-by-side comparison. Let me grab it, and we'll take an even closer look at it and make sure everything matches up. You know, because we need that dot and all that good stuff. So let's do that. All right, y'all. So this is our new camshaft. I did order this camshaft from offline. I got it from, I believe, Parts Geek. Normally I would go OEM, but the owner of this here Wrangler didn't want to pay the OEM price, so we went with the aftermarket, which was almost half the price. But something like this, I would advise going with OEM. And let's kind of inspect this to see what we got going on here. And already, as you can see here, this here ring did not come on this. So essentially, we could probably take this thing off. We're gonna have to figure out how to take this thing off and reinstall it. But to my knowledge, this thing should be, it's probably timed, if I had to guess. So do not know if I'm going to install this, to be honest. So this is why you don't want to go the cheap route and use aftermarket parts, because now essentially you got to hassle with something that is not necessarily the easiest thing to kind of deal with here. So I need to do a research on that to confirm that this is time. Not really sure. So a little investigating I'm gonna have to do, but from the looks of it, it very well may be, because if you can see here, there's a paint mark there, and then there's a paint mark here. So it looks like it's out of time anyway. And this could be essentially part of the reason why that crankshaft coat was coming on, because this right here wasn't reading the right position when it needed to be. And you can see there's kind of like a little hole here. So I'm assuming all that's here for a reason and not just by coincidence. So we may have to end up putting this job off for a little while longer. to get an OEM camshaft, intake camshaft. And of course, as well, not OEM on the rocker rollers. We're going with these melling. I don't recommend this, guys, but again, the customer did not want to go OEM. So furthermore, you kind of run into these kind of inconvenience. So be in mind, Mopar, guys. If you're going to work with Mopar, get Mopar parts. So that is my spill on that. With that being said, we're going to have to take a break here until I can get the right part here, and then we'll go back on with this repair. It is what it is, but that also give me a chance to get the new camshaft journal bolts, because I did not get these new, which these are one time only, and I want to make sure we do the procedure correctly. Even if we gotta wait a little bit of time till he gets money right, that's what I recommend. I mean, we already lost some time dealing with this. So anyway, y'all, real recap. All right, guys, so let's start working on getting this valve spring corrected and this lifter out of here. All right, so and also take notice, guys, check out that gouging here. That's from it being in there incorrectly. And what I'm thinking is what happened, which is reason why this camshaft itself got out of time, is this camshaft got jammed at some point, and this looks like probably the workings of it getting jammed, and that's what probably knocked this little here this thing out of time, because this damn thing got locked in position. It got wedged and it kept trying to turn, and probably turned this thing right out of time. That's my hypothesis on what happened with this part. So I'm not even going to try to get this thing in time or any of that, because this is too much work to be trying to take a guess. I'd rather just get it all assembled just like this out of the box. I'm going to send this one back, and then we're going to resume with our repairs here. But in the meantime, let's just work on getting this part back situated, and then maybe replacing all our rocker rollers. All right, so we might as well go ahead and replace those since we're right here at it. And also every one of these here lifters we're going to replace as well. All right, let's do it. All right, y'all, so I'm going to try and use vice grips. That's what I'm going to start with, try to get these out. So I need a good grip on it, and then I want to be able to somehow tap it out of here. So let's start with these and see what it does. Get it in position, get a good bite on it. All right, that actually got it out pretty easily. So vice grip should work. As you can see, well, it just came apart. That may not be too good, but I'm sure we can get it the rest of the way out. Let's just free up our vice grip. That's what it looks like. All right, let's go back in for another bite. This part not so easy. There we go. So there we go, guys. We got that thing out of there. Not sure how it jammed, but it did. So this is definitely why you want to use fully synthetic oil in these and keep up on your routine maintenance, because I'm sure it has all to do with the condition of the oil, if I had to guess. All right, so now let's try to correct this here valve. All right, so what I'm gonna do is probably put like a towel on here just to try to protect the valve spring, not to gouge it or anything, and then pinch it. Vice grips just to hold on to it, so I don't want it to drop. So I'm about to try to compress this spring just enough so this keeper falls in place. Check it out, y'all. check it out. So this is how I was able to correct this here valve spring. As y'all can see, I'm able to flex the spring down. I just used a little mini pry bar, stuck it under here, right, to compress the spring, and then just kind of manipulate it and move it until the spring fell into place. The keeper fell into place, actually. So now it's back where it needs to be, as you can see, nice and flush. So we've now corrected that issue. So now at this point, we're gonna get our lifters all prepped and our rollers, which I'll probably save that for the next take on when we get back on putting this thing together. I'm just probably leave it right here for now because we need to get a new or OEM camshaft. So then we'll go and install these, because these got to be saturated, soaked in oil along with the rollers. So there's no sense in doing that if we're not going to install it right away. So we'll catch you guys on the next. This is a good stopping point. I'm just going to remove the remaining rocker rollers and the remaining lifters, which they're pretty straightforward. You just take them out like that. So that's all we're going to do today for this job. And we'll pick back up, guys. So let's order that OEM Mopar camshaft and also our camshaft journal bolts. Remember, one-time use only, and then we'll pick back up. All right, y'all. So we are at a point where we're just going to go ahead and clean up this here valve cover. We want to get our sealing surfaces all cleaned up. I'm going to demonstrate on how to get it all cleaned up real quick, nice and swiftly. We want to try to keep any trash or debris from falling into the actual valve cover. It's not, not to say that, you can't get any in there, but you want to try to get as less as possible. So we want to go ahead and vacuum it up. So when we go back on with the valve cover, we got a nice smooth sealing surfaces, and we got all the trash out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this thing up, check for any of these rocker rollers that I may have dropped in there, because a few dropped. So we want to get a count of all those that we have loose from removing this camshaft. I'm going to go ahead and remove this back out of the way temporarily until we get this thing cleaned up. But yeah, we're going to clean it up real quick, and that's it, guys. I was just going to probably use to clean it, we're going to use a razor blade here. Use this to kind of scrape up all the old gasket, some towels, shop rags like this, and some brake cleaner. So what we're going to use, and also the Milwaukee vacuum, so to kind of suck up all the debris out of here. This is what we're going to use to clean this thing up, and then we'll cover it until we are prepared to resume with repairs. We just don't want any trash or anything else getting in here, so we're going to probably put a trash bag over it to cover it. So let's go ahead and get this thing prepped for later repairs. All right, so now we got it cleaned up, looking much better. Ready to go back together with at this point, as far as I'm concerned. So waiting on parts, got all the lifters and everything removed. Everything, mating surfaces cleaned. We do got a bit of the piece up here, the timing cover, still left behind. I think I'm going to cut this off, and then the RTV should seal it for the most part. Make sure we go back on with RTV when we go to fix this back together. Just try not to lose this inside the head here. Rip this off, make it nice and smooth. And then there's right on the opposite side, there's kind of like a spot right opposite of this here, about right here, where the first journal is, kind of like right before it. You want to put some RTV there just to bead when you go back on with the valve cover, so keep that in mind. But we'll probably cover that later. So just gonna smooth this out, put RTV here as well when we go back to repair it to help compensate for this seal part of the timing cover. But other than that, it's clean. Looks like our timing is being held, so we're able to work freely and not have to worry about this thing shifting from left to right or anything like that. Everything's still holding good in place. So yeah, it's working out smoothly.